Hey, Subtours, welcome to Go Talk Special Edition after dark tonight. Gosh, it may not be during the summer, but certainly during the winter it is. We've got a great Go Talk plan for you tonight. We've got Sub2Deals trusted advisor Pam Fisher here tonight. She's going to talk to us about mobile homes. Now, Pam and I joke all the time about mobile homes. She makes a ton of money with them, and it's just never been my thing, but there's a bunch of people out there who really, really like mobile homes. So she teaches it, does a great job with it. We brought her on here tonight. She's going to talk all about mobile homes and how she makes a ton of money with those. So Pam, we're going to bring you in. Welcome to Go Talk. How are you?
I am fantastic, William. How are you doing?
Oh, man, do it finer than frog hair. Finer than frog hair. So
that's you come up with some of those doozies. I don't know sometimes. I love it.
Well, there you go. Pam, what are you going to tell everybody tonight about mobile homes? I know you buy a bunch of them. You just amaze me with. I know you got a ton of deal examples, but give us a little bit of an overview about what we're going to talk about tonight.
Sure. We're going to chat about mobile home magic, as William calls it, with my wobbly boxes. I jokingly call it the redheaded stepchild of investing because folks don't think there's any money in there, and I am okay with that. But we're going to look at different ways that we can make it. So we're going to just talk a little bit about what is a mobile home, how are they different, how do you find them if you're interested in them, and then how do you actually evaluate a deal? Where is the profit? And then we're going to dig a little bit into if you're starting to look at parks, what are you looking at there as well? So we've got an evening packed with content, and hopefully we can clarify some misconceptions about mobile homes and then talk through how anyone could possibly make money within the mobile home world.
Absolutely. Okay, so I know you're going to go over some deal examples. I love those. I mean, those are always my favorite. I know you guys probably are going to have a lot of questions. Hey, Tracy's on here with us tonight. If you've got questions, go ahead and put those in the comments, whether you're on YouTube or you're on Facebook. Go ahead and put those in there. We're actually going to come back after the presentation, and Pam is going to answer all of your questions tonight. So we're going to hang out until we get all of those covered. So I'm not going to waste any time. I know Pam said she's got a lot of content to cover. So I'm going to get out of here, and we're going to let her get going. So Pam, go ahead and.
William, is there a way for me to see who's on or how many people are on, or do I have access to that at all?
You should be able to see the comments there if you've. Okay. If you're on Facebook, on YouTube, you should be able to see those come up.
Got it. Okay, just so I know, I'm on the StreamYard right now, but let me see if I can maybe see it in Facebook as well. Sorry.
Yeah.
This is my
you've got just a little bit of echo. I don't know if you've got volume on with a couple of things or whatever. You might want to turn that down just a little bit.
All right,
Tracy, got a little echo. Hey, Phil. Tim's in here. Good to see you guys.
Awesome. Okay. Good to know. Well, let's go ahead and get started and see what we got going on then. So, all right. So, William, can you see my screen then?
Uh-oh. We can. We got you there. Your screen's up and you're ready to go.
Perfect. Then I'm going to go and get started. And I figured out how to get Facebook here in the background with me so I can see any comments. And then hopefully I can, respond in real time to some of this with any of the discussions that I have here. So let's get going. All right. Well, again, my name is Pam Fisher. William, thanks so much for bringing me on as a Sub2 trusted advisor and allowing me to speak on one of my favorite subjects here, which is mobile homes. You know, if we're doing the formal way to talk about them these days, we're supposed to use the word manufactured homes because mobile homes still has a bit of a negative connotation in the world, and we're going past that at this point. So we're going to kind of move through here. Our discussion items today are going to include a few things here, talking about some mobile home basics. How do you find good deals at this point, especially in this market? It certainly has become more and more challenging. How to evaluate good deals and strategies for those, and then mobile home park evaluations. We're just going to touch on that a tiny bit, acknowledging that mobile home parks are a whole different ball game. I do want to just acknowledge up front that I am fully aware that this is a very different setup than what the typical sub two deals are that William speaks about all the time and is a master at with his GOAT status here. But I will tell you that I have been successful at taking on a few sub two deals with mobile homes that are in various situations. And as we go through, I'll try and share some of that information as well. So we're not completely out of the ballpark here when we're talking about mobile homes. So a question I often get is who the heck rents or buys a manufactured home? And the honest answer is anyone and everyone. They're safe, they're affordable, they can be economically viable, although you'll see in this presentation where the prices are going up. It's individuals, it's couples, young, relocated, retired, it's families, it's folks that are downsizing. And part of the reasons why folks like mobile homes compared to an apartment or a duplex or a quadplex is you don't share walls. You're a freestanding home. Oftentimes, you have your own yard. Some will have fences, and sometimes it can be economically more viable. Although, again, the prices have slowly but surely gone up. And then some of them have the tenants that come in may have lower incomes or less than perfect credit scores. That's not always the case, and I've certainly become a little bit more stringent on my requirements for people that I rent to specifically. And I am just going to take a moment here and talk about a word that I use often, which is risk tolerance, because I have colleagues that have luxury homes and we've had discussions about there is a threshold about a change in a tenant perspective. And again, this can be an owner perspective as well, but tenant is what we're going to refer to here. And we think the threshold is between $800 and $1,200. And what I mean by that is that if you have someone that's educated and makes really nice money in a city of some sort, and they are paying $1,200 or more for rent, which these days that's everyone. But back when we started having these conversations, today it would be more like $2,500 to $4,000. That person probably knows a bit more about how to care for a home and can manage small emergencies. And when I say small emergencies, let's say the toilet clogs and that they realize they did something or their kid threw something down there, they can manage that versus someone in a price range for a rental below, say, $1,000. They may not have the resources or the know how of how to do those things. You also have a different level of potential drama, which is where we call risk tolerance again. Now, I'm not saying that's all the ways the case, but that is a possibility. So I do say that up front, you do need to understand your personal risk tolerance for dealing with tenants and or people and their potential issues coming through. Okay. All right. Just going to give a very broad, quick introduction to the history of mobile homes, manufactured homes. They've been around since 1910 in total. It started out with basically a travel trailer. A couple of just items to note here is that in World War II, trailers slowed down, like completely slowed because people didn't have money. The men were at war and all resources were dedicated. However, whenever they started pulling anyone and everyone to start working in factories to support the wartime, trailers became a necessity because it needed to support temporary workers and the housing. So you had these areas that didn't used to have a higher population that then would come in and have people coming to just be at the factory to support the war efforts in it. But in the top corner here, you see what they would call wartime housing there, which was basically the trailers. So as people needed housing, they started building trailer parks. And the initial trailer parks were actually government supported, if you can believe that or not. By 1943, there were more than 43,000 people working at a bomber plant, and half of them lived in trailers that had been created with parks for 16 of those, with a handful of government run parks. I just think it's interesting to hear the background of how we started there. In 1948, there was around 7% of the population that was living in what they called a trailer home. And this is coming out of the World War II, the housing shortage, depression, moving in through there. Then they had all these beautiful type of advertisements of living the dream life and the cuteness and such that people would take on. I find these older type of advertisements kind of interesting to see the way things used to be and the way that they kind of made the beauty of the homes coming through here. In 1976, there was something pretty significant that happened in the world of manufactured housing whenever the HUD code came out, and it just was sort of a standard that's federally mandated. I'm going to say that again, federally mandated. There's not a housing code that's federally mandated overall, and sometimes even state regulations are pretty lackadaisical depending on where you are. But the HUD code brought out to say that we were looking for better homes with minimum energy and building standards there. That just had some approvals, quality processes, and there's a little metal plate that will be located on the exterior, typically by the back or the front door, that has, it's called the HUD plate there. They have on there. You'll never use it, but that's just showing that it has been approved by the HUD. Okay. And then inside of the mobile home, this particular little piece of paper becomes one of the most important items that you're going to find inside the manufactured home. It's called a HUD data plate. And although it is literally an 8.5 by whatever is it, 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, it is not laminated, but glued on a surface within the trailer. And in this case, we're showing it's on the kitchen cabinet, which is the sink here, which of course gets wet. Sometimes it's in the closet or the electrical panel, but this piece of paper, if it's missing, can cause you a heck of an issue there. So just showing in general that this is a very important piece. If you don't have it inside, or if you're going in to remodel a place, take a photo of this. Try and preserve it if you can, because what's on here is going to show the make and the model, and more importantly, a VIN, a vehicle identification number, or a serial number for this mobile home. And you will have to have that for a couple reasons that we'll talk about in the future. It also talks about your roof load loan, any installed equipment, and then indicate your wind zone there as well. Okay. In general, a manufactured home, mobile home, is managed through the Department of Motor Vehicles. And if you think about it logically, the house travels, it has wheels, it has axles, and hence it is a road oriented house. That is why you have titles through the Department of Motor Vehicles. My dogs are in here playing hard and they're starting to fight. So if you hear me jump up in a minute, you might know why. Sorry about that. If this is given up, just like you can with the car title, you can reissue this with the DMV. But if you're purchasing a mobile home and it is not on permanent land, then this is a really important item, and you have to have a notary and a signature to reassign this home. You can relinquish the manufactured home if you put it on a permanent foundation, because it would officially become part of the real estate property, but it has to have a permanent foundation. And for the purposes of what that means for property purposes, it has to have the wheels and the axles actually removed from underneath the trailer when you're doing that. Okay. In general, it's a mode of manufactured home is a structure that is transportable in one or more sections. It can be moved. Usually it's 8 feet or more in width and up to 40 feet or more in length. As at least 400 square foot. It's built and remains on a permanent chassis. And again, the HUD took effect in 1976 here. If you ever have a chance to actually go into a facility that you can view and tour about how manufactured homes are built, it is fascinating. I'll say it again, it is fascinating. The house literally moves down an assembly line. If you think about it, whenever you're on a stick-built home site, you're somewhat guesstimating on your supplies. Within this factory, they know exactly what goes in. They know the walls, they know the appliances, they know everything there in the factory, and they use exact quantities. So they start out with the floor frame that's built, and then they actually flip it over. They put in the plumbing and the electrical underneath the floor, and then they start insulating it. Then they put what they call an underbelly, which is basically a very, very thick tarp that covers the insulation that's on there. And when they flip it back, they're going to put the frame onto a steel trusses and chassis where the wheels are added. And then it literally has an assembly line where it rolls on down into the factory. And they'll put down the flooring first, typically. So if it's linoleum or vinyl of some sort, they put that on before the walls go on. And then the walls are prefabricated. And in this picture, you can see that the pulleys and chains are there, and they are moving that to actually place it to where it's going within this particular home. And then they continue putting it together. You can see on this side, you've got everything in the walls and the panels with the insulation, and they'll come in and do the final painting and the roof. Flooring exterior is added, and then it's transported down the road. You have two ways to look at this: single wides, double wides, and then you can get into triple wides, although those are fewer and and you don't see them very often. So a single wide is typically 18 feet or less in width. So if you think about if you've ever been on the road and you've been behind someone moving a trailer or a single wide, the entire thing is a box that has to be transported down the road. Typically, they're 90 feet or less. 52 is common. So a common size of a trailer is 15 by 72, which is long and narrow, but there's plenty of space in there to do what you need. It's self-contained, and there you see the front end where it's connected with the wheels and axles underneath it. They tie it down literally to the trailer. And then if you're behind it, this is what it looks like going down the road. Next, we have a double wide. And a double wide is basically taking two singular components and putting them together, and they come together with what they call a marriage wall. So in this case, you see two pieces of the double wide being transported down the road. They're sealed off with the plastic tarp, and then when they get on site, they're pushed together that you see right here, and then they frame out and connect the marriage wall. And that is one of the requirements for the permit, the inspector to come through and ensure that the marriage wall is secured so that you don't have any issues there. So whenever it's set up, you'll see that it's on the blocks underneath, and then they'll finish it out by putting the siding on the sides of it. And then a really important piece here is that the roof line has to have the flashing, and then if it's shingles, they got to put those back on there. That's a really important piece because I had somebody move a double wide for me a couple years ago, and I didn't have all my resources on site when it was delivered and set up. Well, the knuckleheads that did it had pulled back the roof, the shingles, and then they put the flashing up, but they did not take the shingles that had been pulled back and push them back down appropriately to seal up the trailer appropriately. So what happened is where the shingles had been pulled out and the flashing was there, there is a gap, and it sat for a couple months, and it rained, and we had to do all new electrical because all of the wiring in the ceilings were messed up because we didn't get up and double check and inspect that portion on the double wide. So just something lesson learned there. Typically, it's going to be 20 feet or greater. If you remember, it's two single wides being put together, and usually they're 10 or wider. If you go on up to 16 feet, you can do the math, and it becomes 32 feet wide. And then again, 90 foot or less, and it has the marriage wall there. There are a few triple wides out there, which are massive when they come in, and it's basically three sections transported separately, and then putting two marriage walls together inside. To make that 60 feet or wider if you have the three together and managing those marriage walls. So once you get it on site, we then move into what we call setup of the manufactured home. Now, I have people ask me all the time, does it have to be on a permanent concrete foundation? And the answer is no. It needs to be on level ground. I'm going to say that again, level ground. Because what you don't want is to have one end of the home setting way up high and another end setting way down low, because then you've got to deal with skirting or permanent foundation accordingly there. So one of the things I always recommend, and again, sometimes this comes from the school of hard knock called experience, is to get it as level as possible as you can on the ground you're putting it on. And then they literally put cinder blocks and wood together, and you can see the steel chassis there that is going to be sitting on top of the cinder block. So your pillars that you would have in a house normally is within concrete are sitting on top of the ground. And then beyond that, you have these tie downs, and there's a tie down that they're using a tool, a wrench there to ratchet it back and tighten it up. So the tie downs are attached to the steel underneath. So pretty simple, cinder block with some wood to level it out, and then tie downs that are in specific place. These are called a version of a hurricane strap as well. So it's placed on blocks or metal pillars. It's tied down. And then in many places, you are required to have skirting underneath this. And if you think about the skirting, there's a couple pieces for that. We'll talk through that in just a minute, because You have a wind tunnel down there. So if you think about a home and a crawl space, if you have that, you want to protect your pipes and your electrical and such to get in there. And even if you have skirting, it doesn't mean it's protected fully, but it's better than not. Okay. So one of the things that make mobile homes unique is skirting and or permanent foundation at some point. So skirting can oftentimes be a vinyl composite that is not very weed eater friendly. Oftentimes we'll see holes coming through the bottoms of these. It's torn up like somebody chewed through it because of that. You can have colorful and decorative ones that are stones, bricks, etc., to be put under. Obviously, people use metal roofing under there. I've seen in California places like that, people actually use wood under there. And again, the purpose of this is to somewhat protect underneath with freezing pipes, condensations, and again, in North Carolina, to set it up, or in the counties that I have set up, it's a requirement to have it. You can also take this and move it to a whole new level and put it on a permanent foundation. Now, when we say the word foundation, I say that's not fully correct because in a home, the house is on the pillar and the foundation is what the house is built on. Within a manufactured home, you already have the pillars underneath there that is where the house is sitting. And then the house itself is not actually sitting on the foundation. Normally, the foundation is just underneath the edges of the steel trusses around there. So, although it's a permanent foundation and you can relinquish that title, the foundation of the trailer is not actually what the trailer is physically sitting on. It's more of a facade there. Now, one day I'm going to have somebody challenge me on that, but I have not had that challenge yet. And my experience in everything I've done with mobile homes has been that the foundation is more facade and the house is not actually sitting on it. It just appears that it's sitting on it. And like here, you can see this, that the house is already set. You've got the electrical panels and they're still building that. So it's not sitting on it. It's being built around there. Okay. So when you move and set up a mobile home, it's going to require permits from your county and or city. You need to let the county or city that the trailer is currently in know that you're moving it. And then your new place is going to go, you have to have a moving permit. If septic is there on site, you'll be required to have an environmental septic approval or inspection, and then you'll work with transporters to set up and move. You want to make sure these folks are certified, insured, and bonded. And this is an old number again at this point, but it was 2,000 to 12,000 about 3 years ago. I've seen this go up to about, 2,000 was a single wide. And then I have seen the double wides going up to 20 and 30,000, depending on where you are in the country. And then when they transport it, they're going to move, tie down, do the marriage wall, roof if they need to, vinyl replacement if it's double wide there. They're going to take into account the amount of miles they're traveling. And then I have seen those prices come up drastically these days as well. You also are going to need an electrician, a plumber, and HVAC. And then your final requirements for your permit is going to be steps, usually your 911 number, skirting, and safety. How are they different? You have trunk lines for your HVAC. The belly wrap, the underbelly is what I call it, is there that has your insulation. It's no different than if you go underneath your own house. You should have these things in there as well. And then you'll have your pipes that are laying out and underneath there as well. You oftentimes have fixtures that are more economical, plastic sinks, faucets. Doors in a manufactured home can be very different in sizes. I had a house that we remodeled and it was a 5-bedroom house and a double wide, but there were 5 different sizes of door within that house. It was a nightmare to find them and make sure we got it right, but we finally did. Oftentimes your doors are aluminum, your faucets and your sinks are oftentimes plastic. And for some reason, somebody along the line in the design and industry within manufactured homes decided that women, because that's what I'm going to use here as my example, love these round and large tubs within the bathroom that had mirrors all around because we all want to see ourselves like that. And then often had carpets in there. So typically I'll remove all this when I come in and remodel. Studs, you're going to have smaller studs throughout their Typically 2x3s. There are some that are 2x4s and 2x6s, but we often see 2x2s and 2x3s. They're placed 16 to 24 inches apart. You're going to have wall boards, panels, and batten strips. You will see the lovely paneling. That's a batten strip, and that's because they literally place walls up and then they cover it quickly. It's all about how quickly can I get the wall up and done. You have these very long ceiling panels, and then they use sometimes the rosettes with screws to hide the cuteness of that. And then if you strip it down, this is what it looks like. Usually the vinyl or the metal is just outside of this. And then you see all the insulation, your studs, and then you can rebuild it as needed. Roofs, you can have metal roofs, you can have shingle roofs, you can have what they call roof overs or build-ons, if you will. On a metal roof, it's not uncommon for them to rust out, and we know what rust brings, leaks at some point. So there's this element called Kulso. It's spelled with a K, not a C, and it's elastomeric that you can actually, we've used mops, we've used rollers, depending on what it was easiest at the time to put it on it. And it basically puts a elastic looking top that becomes wide on top of this. You also have metal. You can do the shingles. And then in this case, they're working on the roof over where oftentimes they'll have poles supporting the roof to try and add some insulation in there. Well, all right. Ways to buy and invest in mobile homes. We can do many things. You can buy them brand new and move them to either your own land or a park. You can buy them used with land already together. Those are great owner finance opportunities or remodeling opportunities to make money. And then you can buy used that you move to land or pay lot rent. You can work as a lender or a partner, and then you can have a park itself where you own the trailers and it's supposed to be land, or you can only have the land and have other people pay you lot rent for the trailer itself. This is something I found recently that's showing what the home prices were in 2018. I thought that was a little bit sooner than that. Sorry about that. But you see that the average price of a single wide in the western region here was 59 going up to 62,000. A double wide was around 114, 100,000, 122,000. But you have to consider the setup and the freight delivery charges here as well. So your lowest price that they have for a single wide setup was 82,000, and the highest price that they have, which again I'm going to say this is not realistic now, for a single wide there with the setup would have been 105,000. I have heard some estimates that prices have gone up 35% just in the last 2 years because with COVID coming in, people are spending a lot more time at home. We used to be able to get new homes within about 3 months, and the most recent update I've had was it was 12 to 18 months now to get a new home delivered. I did pull up another location. This is one here in North Carolina called FactoryExpoHomes.com. They have Fleetwood and Champion, and this is going to be your most basic of basic models. Nothing fancy. You're going to walk in and it's going to feel cheap because sometimes they do. And they were showing that they have starting prices of 35 through Fleetwood, and Champion had a starting price of 59,000, right at 60. But again, this is going to be your basics. So the prices have gone up for new ones. In August of 2020 rather, the Census Bureau was showing that through Clayton Homes that the average was around 57,700 for a single wide there. And then again, you've got to consider your additional costs for setting up, moving, which include your plumbing, your electric, HVAC, permits, drive, meaning the distance, your water, your sewer. And then used homes, depending on where you are, you can get them for as little as $300 and then negotiate on up from there. Okay. Financing, it is not easy to find financing for mobile homes sometimes, but there are possibilities. 21st Mortgage has a higher percentage, but they will do homes that are on personal property, like the land. Movement Mortgage is one that I have sold a house to that somebody used for financing recently. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, USDA, and VA, personal loans, and then, of course, owner financing, which is one of my favorite things to do. When you're working on remodeling a mobile home, they are similar to stick built. It's not completely out of the realm of thinking to manage this. The doors, the windows, the tubs have sometimes different measurements. I kind of jokingly say that this particular door with that box uh, window is, you always know that's a manufactured home door without hesitation. Skirting versus permanent foundation. The ceiling tiles inside are usually 14 feet long, and I think they're 24 inches wide, so right at 2 feet wide. They'll come apart. You can get strips to put up there, or those lovely little rosettes they have with screws that you can pop in. You can get supplies at mobile home supply stores, hardware stores, and then your walls. Typically, they'll come in as panels or what they call vinyl and gypsum with the batten strips, but you can also replace that with your regular drywall, just like you can replace the floors with regular flooring nowadays. Metal roofs, we talked about. This is an example of what the metal roof would look like before. And then when you actually put on the cool seal, this is what it looks like. It turns white. And then again, it's like elastic putting on there. Your studs are a little bit different. We talked about that. Your subfloors are particle board, oftentimes stapled and glued. So those are not so fun to actually pull up, but sometimes you have to for the stability. And then, like we said earlier, oftentimes there's plastic fixtures, which are a little bit less expensive. There is a website called mobilehomerepair.com that I would highly recommend that anyone interested in doing mobile homes look at. There's a ton of resources out on Facebook for repairs. People have made their homes stunning. In California, when I lived there, because the taxes on mobile homes are so inexpensive, meaning that your tax based on the year it's manufactured versus the taxes of today, as in your taxes go down over time versus coming up, that we have in a stick built home. There's people do amazing things with mobile homes, is all I'm going to say. How do you find them? That's the big question I get all the time. So I quickly searched a little while ago to look here in Raleigh area, and I found two that you can buy. How about a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot house, mobile home, on 0.66 acres for $270,000? Anyone want to sign up for that now? Again, the prices have gone up tremendously. Or you can get a little bit of an older one down here in Garner, which is a little bit of the outskirts of Raleigh, for $89,000. They've just dropped the price by $10,000, but it has a 0.33 acre lot. Again, prices have skyrocketed in more recent time. I have found several of mine on Facebook Marketplace. My first park I bought, I found on Craigslist. My second park I found on Craigslist that I bought. And then driving for dollars. You can tell when a place is typically vacant, whether it has a tarp on top of the house, the roof, or if it just looks run down. You can drive through parks, talk to your neighbors, talk to maybe the manager within that park, and find out if they are investor friendly, meaning you want to buy. If someone's behind on taxes or behind on the rent within there, see if you can help them out and offer them an opportunity they can't turn down. Sometimes you can find burned out or falling down trailers or houses even. Don't overlook those, because oftentimes when somebody has land, you've got a few essentials in place. You've got electrical, you've got water, and you've got some type of sewer. So those are the 3 pieces that are required, and you're going to save money on those to be able to set up a new home coming in, whether that's a used one or a brand new one. You can talk to wholesalers, real estate agents, networking, just networking. Go to your local hardware store or go to your mobile home supply store. Ask them, who do you know that has trailers for sale? You'd be surprised. They may know folks. Auctions, courthouse steps, just talk to folks and find them. Here's some examples again from Craigslist of possibilities here. There was one that was 3.63 acres with 42,500. That's a decent deal for that. I've got another one here that was 73,000 with 4 acres of land. So this is, I will tell you, this is a couple years ago before the craziness hit as well. It'd be hard pressed to find these kind now on here. You can buy the home only, where you have to move it to either land that you own or to a lot that is owned by someone else in a park. So sometimes it will say must move. And then your lot rents, depending on where you are, can be $150, which again is a lesser price these days. Usually it's closer to $300, on up to $3,000, depending on where you are. My current park, our lot rents are $300. That's in Aberdeen, North Carolina. Again, a few other options here for older homes. But don't overlook these houses because, again, I mean, you can see in this one, somebody's gone through and painted, put new flooring in. A little lipstick on a pig can go a long way with these guys. And you can also paint the exterior if you don't want to do the vinyl. This is an example of a few places in the world of, I lived in Oceanside, California for a while. And while I was there, I actually had a mobile home in a mobile home park. And this is beach living at its best here with possibilities for mobile home parks there in this area. You can see that people put personality into those all throughout. So cute as can be and sort of stylish. You see that someone had the yellow theme going on and they had their little white porch. This guy was very clever with the way he did it. It was very eclectic. He had used I'd say gardening timbers, if you will, and cut them at different sizes to make part of his foundation there. And then he had the metal roofing everywhere. Otherwise, very cute though with the ways. All right, how do you evaluate mobile homes? So I'll tell you up front that finding ARV for comparables is pretty challenging and somewhat of a guessing game. So an exception to that is double wides on permanent foundation. If you're able to find possibilities for double wides on permanent foundation, you can sometimes find options for what's sold in recent areas. Review other recently sold properties, whether it's a manufactured home or just looking on PropStream and MLS, and then discuss with a local dealer. They may or may not give you reality checks on what that is. And then you need to kind of know what your exit strategy is for what you're doing for your homes. Meaning, are you going to remodel it to sell it? Are you going to own or finance it as is? Are you going to remodel it and own or finance it? Are you going to hold and rent it? Stop. Angel, stop. Sorry. And then whenever I look at options for how I'm going to look at mobile homes, we hear the 1% rule all the time within the world of rentals. So stick-built homes, can you make 1%? An easy example is if you buy a house for $100,000, can you rent that house out for at least $1,000? I'll tell you, in the Raleigh area, our median home price has gone up to around $400,000, and you're not getting $4,000 for that rent rate yet. Now, I'll buy in the rural areas a lot of times, and I can get higher rates for this. But I'd say in a mobile home, you're looking at 2 to 6%. And I will say there are exceptions to that. I don't know how it is out in Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington, or San Francisco, or Phoenix. I will tell you that if you use the word mobile home in those places, you might get your head chewed off because we did that. We were in Arizona one time and we were riding through a very nice park and we said mobile home or trailer and they're like, this is a manufactured house. It's more than a trailer. So people get a little defensive about the titles that you use with them here and there. So an example I'm going to give here is that I purchased a trailer with basic repairs in it for $35,000. And I know that I can rent it for $900 there. So when you do the quick math there, we're at a little bit around 2.5% there for that particular rental. Here's my bigger piece of how I evaluate mobile homes, and not everyone's going to agree with me. I acknowledge that. I'm okay with it. You got to have your own strategy. If I buy this for $36,000 and I'm going to take $100 out for miscellaneous, for management fees to whatever else I'm having to pay, but I'm going to say $800 times 12 months is going to give me $9,600. So I'm going to take my purchase and repair price of $36,000. I'm going to divide that by $9,600. How many years is it going to take me for a rental property to recoup my price? In this case, it's going to be 3.64 years, which equates to 100% cash flow and profit by year 4. Now tell me, in your world of typical rentals, how often do you pay a mortgage off that quickly? Now, here's the second piece of that. In most cases, because your purchase and repair price is only $35,000, you probably don't have a mortgage on this unless you're doing private money. Even still, if I borrowed $35,000 from someone in an IRA, I'm still going to be able to pay that back pretty quickly within 4.5, 5 years even. To do this. But again, where do you find a rental property that you can pay off in 4 years or less typically? Let's say that this is the same type of evaluation for this mobile home, but it's in a park, meaning it has lot rent. And in this case, I'm going to say it's in my park down in Aberdeen, North Carolina, where my lot rent is $300. So same scenario, 35,000. We're going to rent it for 900. Lot rent is 300, and the cash flow is going to be 600. So you do the same math, and this one's going to take 7.29 years to pay off, with the 100% cash flow profit by year 8. Now, again, who's paid off your mortgage in 8 years or so? Not many. Let's look at a different way. One of my favorite, and although it's not directly a sub to, it's an owner finance. And those of you that have heard me talk about creative financing, I call it my REI cash flow formula, where I'm taking a realtor box, so old school over here, that has the dials on it. And I'm going to change these dials to come up with the numbers that I'm looking for to get cash for the keys I'm handing over here. So assuming the same scenario, I'm going to buy it for 35. I'm going to double the price here to 70. So my first dial is going to go from a 1 to a 2 here because I'm doubling the price. I'm asking for 10% down, which in this case is $7,000. So my second dial here becomes a 10 for 10%. That leaves a note of 63,000, but it also leaves my remaining cash in this deal of 28,000. I'm going to finance this to somebody for 10 years at 10%. It's still going to come up to be $900 a month, but we're going to say that's times 7 years, or $75,600. So my total investment is going to be $95,791.38. So I'm taking 35,000 and I'm turning it in to 95,791. Now I've got a discrepancy here. I'm just seeing this. I have 10 years, but I say 7 years. So this 10 really needs to be updated to 7. So if I'm doing my formula over here, the first one would be a 2 for 2 times the price. The second one would be 10% for my down payment. The next one is going to be 10% interest. And then my last one is going to be 7 for 7 years here. So the total investment is going to be returned to you of your 35,000 in less than 3 years. And then after that, your $900 is all cash flow. So the way I'm getting to that is we had 35,000 total that we have into this property. I got 7% down at closing, which leaves $28,000 remaining. So within my first however many months, I get 7,000 back. So then I'm taking my 28,000 that I have remaining. I'm taking $900 a month times 12, which equals 10,800, and it will take me 2.59 years plus my remodel slash sell time to recoup all the money I put into this property. So not too shabby for a return to you if we're doing it as an owner finance. Okay. Here's a double wide that I purchased on auction.com many moons ago. Not pretty at all. It was a large double wide. It was 5 bedrooms. It was in Carthage, North Carolina. I purchased it for $13,000. It was an eyesore to say the least. You see inside photos, there was lots of water damage in multiple places. It was rough looking. I'll say that. It had the beautiful green carpet that we all love. Did not have a back door appropriately. Although it had a deck, it didn't have a door here. You see the kitchen where it had a half rail. We took that out. This bathroom was pretty much falling in. It needed some love here. So we went through and we did everything. We put on a new roof. We put on vinyl siding, windows, flooring, walls, electrical. We did everything on this trailer. And this is what it looked like in the end. It was beautiful, to be honest with you. Absolutely beautiful. We did put French doors on the back here where it had a deck over there previously. We did allow that to come through. And let's talk numbers for a second. So I bought it for $13,000. When we talked about remodeling earlier, a lot of the remodeling is similar to what we would do within a normal single family home. So if we had the option to actually have conversations going here, I would ask, does anyone have an idea on what the remodel costs here were? And then what the total cost would have been. And then we sold this one for $110,000. I think this had 0.6 acres. And this was about, I think it was 12% below what a single family home would sell for in this area. So I ended up going over budget on this one because of the level of remodel that we had to do. So we did about $65,000 in repairs in this one. and we walked away with a total cost of $78,000. We sold it for 110, so I still had $32,000 in profit. Not too shabby for a little double wide. Okay. Here's another example. This is an anomaly, and I'm going to admit that one up front, but I'm not going to tell you you can't find these because they are out there. It's a 1980 Horton single wide, 14 by 60, 2-bedroom, 1-bath. I bought it for $1,000. The lady had passed away. Her son didn't need it, didn't want it. It's disgusting inside. It was old. It smelled like smoke. There were water issues. It was located in a trailer park, mine, and lot rent's $300. Would allow anyone to have 2 months free here. But if you were trying to come in and buy this from a trailer park owner, this would be the similar situation. So you can see the pretty here. You've got the orange shag carpet here, panels everywhere. Not very pretty. So we came in and we did a full remodel. We had about 3 weeks labor in this. We did paint. We changed the tub, faucet. We did everything pretty much. Knobs, carpet. We changed out carpets to put in LVP in some of the main areas. And then we put carpets into the 2 bedrooms. So we're going to look at the prices. With all in, we have $6,888 in this particular remodel here. So my question to you is, what is a good profit? So this is what we ended up with here. So we painted all of our cabinets. We put in new flooring. We did some creative contact paper on the actual closet doors. We did little handy things with the way that we set it up. We used the person who remodeled this is phenomenal. She works with me all the time. I couldn't imagine life without her. She goes and gets 50% off everywhere and everything. This is panels that we bought from Lowe's. We used some old metal from a shed down the road that we had to tear down. She decided to go with a farmhouse theme here. So we have a trough for a trailer. This is the original cabinet that she put pieces of plywood on and burned because she was going for the farmhouse theme. She bought lights at Walmart for $15 and $18. She used a bucket for, it's a whole theme and not for everyone. Okay. So here's 2 examples of what we can do with this place. I could sell it out for $20,000. It would be a $13,000 profit for 3 weeks for a total cash of $13,112, which would be a 190% profit. Anybody want to take that one? I will. Second option is we get $4,000 down. We're going to sell it for $324.42 a month, plus the lot rent included in there. We're going to make 8% on this over 5 years for a total profit of $16,577, which becomes 240% profit. Again, this is a trailer we bought for $1,000, and with everything in, we have a less than $7,000. I'll say that's a deal all day long, and I'll take them all day long. Now, does it have the big numbers some people like with a couple more zeros in front of it? No. But sometimes little deals lead to big dollars. There's a guy named Lonnie Scroggs that would say that all the time. So little deals lead to big dollars. All right. I'm going to show you a couple other opportunities. Here's a mobile home park. Again, this is an old example, but it is an example. They were bringing in $2,200 a month for 9 pads. The park was for sale for $198,000. My goodness, if I only had more money back then when I was looking for these. 20% cost would be $17,600 a year. It would take 11.25 years to pay off, and then it would end up being $22,000 a pad. So the way I get that is I take the total amount, divide it by the number of pads. Pads is where a trailer is, and that's how we come up with that. And then one of the potentials that we would do there is increase lot rents. So that would be a pretty quick and easy one to do. A Lonnie deal is purchasing in a home that's already in a park. It's minor rehab for moving condition if you wanted to do that, and then resell it on owner financing. Again, beautiful returns when you come into Lonnie deals. I love Lonnie deals. Do them all day long. Here's another example. $4,000 must be moved. If we get to this, we would have $10,000 in for everything for purchase and move, or $14,000 for everything. We're going to move it to a place at $700 rent, $250 lot rent, and comes up to $4,500 a year, 3.8 years to finance and pay off. And then your total coming in for your initial investment would be $39,645 if you did this one as an owner finance option. I'm going to show you a dream mobile home and why people in California take them and transition to them. So this is one that's in Malibu, right on the cliffs area with the beach right there. So someone has taken this and made it into a glorious location and a residence, if you will. So you've got the golf park parking. I'm going to assume that this probably looked out close to the water. Inside, you see they've got chandeliers. It's just beautiful with the way they've done it. This actually sold or was for sale. This is about 2 years ago for 2.199 million because of the location. And I promise you that that did not include the lot. That includes just the trailer. So the beauty of this again is if somebody bought this for 2.19 million, they are going to pay taxes not on the 2.19 million, but on the year that this was built because it's taxed the same as your cars are. We're going to move into our last discussion here about mobile home parks. I get asked often about how do you evaluate a mobile home park? What am I looking for? So there's a ton of things to consider. We're just going to fly through this. There are a ton of resources out there, and my best advice at this point is if you're truly interested, let's partner and talk through it. So you've got to look at the total land that you have on site. What is the breakdown of tenant-owned homes, meaning the people that live in the home own the homes, versus park-owned homes, meaning if I own the lots and the trailers and the tenants are all renting there? What are your current rents there? When was the last increase? What are your other market rents in the area compared to what your rent is? What's your sewer setup? Is it county, city? Is it septic? A lagoon? Stay away from that one is Pam's advice. A pump station? You've got EPA that can come in at any point and kind of change some of these rules as well, which could mean long-term liability and increased expenses there. Water, are you using county and city? Are there individual meters, as in does the tenant pay the water or do you? And wells. If you have county and city water, what is the county city's responsibility for pipes versus yours? In the ideal world, your only responsibility is from the meter to the trailer. That's it. But we don't live in an ideal world sometimes. What are the condition of the roads? Are they paved? Are they sand? Are they dirt? Have they been maintained? Do they have massive boulder holes in there that you're afraid to drive a car down? Landscaping, who does it? How often is it done? Is it maintained well, or do you need to do some work? If there's a pond on site, does it flood? Do you need to do any pond mitigation? What is your crime rate in your park? Because that's where you're going to have to improve it if it's bad. What's your vacancy rate? What's your actual rent rolls? Not ideal, but actual. Get the paperwork to prove this. What are your county and town ordinances regarding mobile homes? If you have an existing mobile home in the park and you pull it out, can you truly replace it with another mobile home? Or are they restricting you to do that? There are some places they don't want mobile homes anymore. So if you move one out, you cannot move another one back in, i.e., you're not going to move it out if that's the case. You're going to figure out how to remodel that. If you have abandoned trailers on site, can you take action to actually obtain the title and remodel that one yourself? What percent of delinquency do you have for your rent roll? What percentage of your homes internally are considered investors that could impact your loan ability in the future? What are the actual bills? What's the process for mailbox? Do you have signs? What are they doing for marketing? What's the current management strategy? If it's mom and pop and they're doing everything, guess what? The budget they're giving you is not real. You've got to be realistic when you're looking at this. Do you have owner finance options from that mom and pop? You sure hope so. What can you do to come in and do value add to the houses or to the park? If you have a master meter for water, for instance, as in the park pays the bill, is it an option for you, if they haven't already done, to put meters in and charge the water back to the tenant? So can you put vending machines on site as other ways to value add to the park there? If you have the tenant owned homes, can you sell them so that you become only lot rents, but you also are doing owner financing in the meantime? You hopefully have the ability to get a commercial loan. You can work through an escrow within that commercial loan to manage your capital improvements. So I did this recently with the park I acquired back in April. where our capital improvements that was a pre-approved in escrow included resurfacing the pavement, taking out some pretty large trees, doing some pond mitigation, um, putting up a sign, and there was something else I'm not thinking about that we were able to pre-include within the loan, that then was just sitting there as an escrow until we actually completed those items. What's your local population? What type of work is available? Do they take RVs? Is it something you can consider to convert into an RV park, or do you even want to bother with that? All good information to know here as we're talking. And then as you're going through there, you need to have strategies. What is your owner financing of trailers? If that's what you're going to do, or you're going to remodel the trailers, how long are you going to hold this? What is your long-term strategy for the park? So lots of things to consider there for if you're looking at mobile home parks and how to evaluate them. Longer conversations for that one, tons of resources available. A couple of resources that I would recommend if you're looking to learn more about mobile homes is there's a great little book written many, many moons ago by Lonnie Scruggs called Deals on Wheels. He will basically buy up cheap homes in parks and then resell them on financing for good profits and cash flow. MobileHomeInvesting.net, a gentleman by the name of John Febro. He's a phenomenal teacher. It has great information. Just YouTube him all over the place. He does have a coaching program, but you can also just watch his YouTube videos, and it's amazing. MobileHomeUniversity.com has a boot camp. I would highly recommend it. It's like drinking from a fire hose for 3 days. I did this a few years ago. It was a phenomenal experience. You're not going to remember even probably 20% of what you go through in there. There were accountants, there were lawyers, there were doctors, there were laymen, all sorts of people in here. Phenomenal. Great system they have there with the communication there. In North Carolina, there is a Manufacturing and Modular Home Builders Association. Again, I have a misspelling there. George Allen has an education blog that he has a mobile home manager certification I got a few years ago. And then, of course, there's conferences and manufacturers, especially if you're willing to get their pricing and want to talk their models. I'll be happy to talk to you anytime. All right. That is my presentation. I think I managed it right at an hour, William. Not too shabby for me and my ability to talk a streak to anyone. I'm going to pause and see what kind of questions we may have. I'm going to see if I can see it on the comments here within.
Okay. Yeah, we got a few questions here. I'll tell you, I didn't realize there was so much to knowing how to handle mobile homes and everything. It sounds like a lot of work. We got to check all that stuff out. But we had a comment. We had a comment from Tim. He said, I did a rehab on a double wide several years ago on a concrete block foundation. In order for my buyer to get FHA financing, I had to have an engineer evaluate it. He had me add 2 loops of 1/4-inch cable around the metal framing at 8 points around the frame, connected to expansion bolts, drilled into the basement slab. It was a lot of work, but that house can always get FHA financing. Isn't that funny? I mean, we can joke about mobile homes, but that's really, if the worst comes, I don't think that cable's going to help much.
No. I've never heard that. Where was that, out of curiosity? Is that Tim that you said did that? He's there?
I'm assuming Tim's in Maine, so I'm guessing that's where he was. I don't know that you guys have a lot of tornadoes and high wind or whatever there. I don't really know.
I'm glad I don't do mobile homes there, Tim. I've never heard of that.
Dana said, what's a good site to find cheap mobile homes that can be flipped? You may have answered this in the...
Well, I'm going to tell you honestly, these days, I don't know that answer. So it depends on your location. But I say Facebook Marketplace truly is probably one of my favorite resources. It used to be more Craigslist, but Craigslist is not as popular as what it used to be. Even whenever I'm trying to sell things, I'm having a harder time doing that. So this is what I had kind of put in there for where to find them. But Facebook Marketplace, I mean, I've had people post mobile homes and I thought, they're not going to get that. And I send them something and I introduce myself and then I follow up with them a couple weeks later to see if they've sold it. And when the answer is no, guess what? Ding, 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 ding. I might have a sub 2 opportunity because if they're asking too much, what do they probably have as a baseline for why they're asking that much? Right. A loan. Right. So I've taken 3 homes, mobile homes as a sub 2 because of that. So
Great. So yeah, you can do manufactured homes.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
you talked about that green carpet that you had in that one place, and I said, we put a lot of that green carpet into rentals 15 years ago, 20 years ago. That
Absolutely.
was because you could clean that stuff up.
You could. Well, the darker the better, right? That's
Yeah.
even now. If we put carpet, which is rare, we'll put dark brown carpet on purpose because it doesn't show stains.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Tracy says, Pam, amazing as always. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Kenneth, amazing. Thank you for all the information. Jonesboro house buyers, wealth of information. Just a lot of great comments. Mark here says, great presentation. Dana asked another question. Do mobile homes make good Airbnbs?
It depends on your location. I will post a little bit later. I met a lady at an event not too long ago who has a mobile home park that she uses short-term rentals, and I cannot think of the name of it. Gosh, I'll come up with it though. It's a funny name, and it's a hunting and fishing location, and she's got a small pond there as well. So each of her mobile homes has a theme. And like you drive in and she's got Bigfoot, running through the park in a couple places. Like the shadow of it. It's interesting, but she does really, really well and has families that come back year after year. So absolutely. I had a double wide in the middle of the country that we called it a country retreat of the Sandhills. And I obviously priced it a little bit lower and it stayed fairly booked. But yeah, people loved it because it was economically viable, right? It doesn't mean that's everywhere.
Right.
At this point, I have a park that I'm looking at in Southern Pines, which is again a resort community area that if I get it, I'm going to eventually transition all of the mobile homes into short-term rentals. I'm going to go in and fancify them and make that happen. So a little over time.
You mentioned Lonnie Scruggs' book, Deals on Wheels, and Jody and I were actually having an argument about this other day. She's got it, and she was reading through it, and I said, I don't know how relevant that is today. Not that the principle isn't the same, but the small parks are haven't most of those gone away? Haven't the bigger companies?
There are a lot of companies out there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
In bigger states, absolutely. California is probably impossible. But in places like South Carolina, Georgia, Kentucky, they're still out there. They're harder to find. And if I were in those areas, I would be talking to the mom and pop about how can we make this work for you not to take on the maintenance of the park anymore? So how do you transition it and make it more desirable for them to not deal with the tenants? But there's definitely out there still.
They're like everything else. They're just a little bit harder to find. You got to work for it. The more people know about it. Tim said, yeah, it was in Maine. No tornadoes here. Jonesboro home buyers had to step away for a bit, so I may have missed this. Did I see at the beginning? And no one is allowed to relocate a mobile home older than those built in 1976?
That is correct. And the reason is because that's the year that they changed the federal standards, the housing urban something that I should know. The HUD standards is what they'll call it. And they do not consider it to be safe for the mobile home to be transported and then reestablished at that point. So what I say is then don't move it. Buy the land. And remodel it because there's no regulations against remodeling it. So you can get it for less expensive in theory because of the age, right? But then you can then hopefully remodel it and still make it work. Now, that's not one you may be able to do as a remodel for resale unless it's something like that Malibu home that we looked at. But you can still make plenty of profit as an owner finance or even as a rental, depending on what you do with it.
Okay. I know when I was in Georgia, I had a good friend there that that's what he would do. When he would buy a small park, he would take those old junk mobile homes and spend $3,000 or $4,000 on vinyl siding and carpet and just transform them and then create the notes and increase the value of the park with the lot rents.
Absolutely.
So he made money two ways. In fact, he and Corey Donaldson actually started that website, Mobile Home University, that you talked about.
Ah,
And they sold it several years ago to the guys that run it now. But
nice. Yeah, Frank and Dave are like the fifth largest mobile home
mhm,
park owners in the U.S. Or they've got some
right.
crazy statistic like that. I won't ever
Mhm.
get there, and I'm okay with that. I just want to make my little impact here. So,
Yeah, there you go. Richard said tons of mobile homes available on Marketplace. So,
oh, well, good to know
there you
that,
go.
Richard. Where are you located?
Yeah, Richard, tell us where you are. Richard's actually in Sub 2 Max, so he's there in the
Okay,
group with us.
good to know
Becca
that.
said there's a single wide in a park that the park manager is selling for $25,000. It's been on the Facebook Marketplace. Park rent's $250. Do you ever have buyers get their funding by applying for a home equity loan?
Let me see if I can translate that. So, if I was going to be the buyer and I have a home and I can take equity out of that home to be able to use that 25,000 to buy it, absolutely. However you can fund it, however you can fund it.
Mhm.
There are people that if people believe in you, right, which is the deal,
Right.
they believe in you, you can get funding from IRAs because the IRA is not looking for the stick built. The person is taking the money and telling it what to do, which is self-directed. As long as you can prove your numbers, absolutely. So take that home, do minimal, if any, updates to it, and then owner finance it out for 50, 75,000.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's see. Roxanne, I love this presentation. Thanks, Pam.
Thank you.
Uh, Jeff said, I came in late, but wonder if you might provide a file of your slide deck for attendees. So,
Sure, I can do that.
okay. All right. And listen, you know, this is a good opportunity to tell you guys just really quick. We'll jump over here. Pam's got a Facebook group, Wobbly Boxes Love, and she didn't have the link for that for me. But I'm sure if you search Wobbly Boxes Love, it'll come up. So you guys get over there, and I bet if you join that group and say, "Hey, I was on Goat Talk tonight. I'd like that slide deck," she'll share it
Ah,
right
that's
there.
even better. I like
Yeah.
that. So come over to
Yeah.
my world on Wobbly Boxes Love.
That's right.
And then in the near future, I will have a wobblyboxes.com up. I just
Hmm.
haven't made that a priority yet, but
Right.
I do plan to do some education and potential partnership through
Right.
wobblyboxes.com in the future here. So
So
thanks, William.
so go join the group, Jeff. That's how you'll get the slide deck. And anybody else that wants it, go over there and do that. Pam is a rock star. Thanks for sharing your vast knowledge. We don't know who you are, Facebook user, but if you'll
Thanks.
either subscribe to us on YouTube, YouTube is not so in your business. You can just comment over there. So let's see. Andrew, hunters would gladly stay in a single or double wide near a hunting unit if that
Yep.
puts them closer to the woods. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Tracy says there are four small parks with 5 to 20 homes where I live. And
Let's talk, Tracy. You know that. Let's talk, sister.
is it easy to buy a park that is long distance?
Well, my question is it easy to buy a house long distance, right? I mean,
Mm.
if you go back down to the criteria that I have in here for mobile home parks that we're talking about, sorry, I'm going to make you dizzy going through again. Um, your same criteria goes into there. You know, it's what is your evaluation? What are you going to use to manage the park? You know, I use a system called Buildium. I love Buildium. It's not for everybody, but it works for me. And
Mhm.
it has transitioned everything. As long as you have an on-site maintenance person, you have an electrician, a plumber, you have your resources there. You can do anything from a distance, right? It's just a matter of you committing the time. You got to do the evaluation. If the numbers talk, then yes, do it distance. Who cares? Um, but you've got to know your risk tolerance, your risk threshold there again. I think that's a really important discussion to have with anyone that's wanting to be in mobile homes. And let me say this clearly, not all mobile homes fit the stereotype of what people think about mobile homes. There are plenty of retirees in all sorts of areas. Go down to Florida. You ever heard of snowbirds? Go down to Florida and look in those fanciful ones that you might have $800 to $3,000 a month for lot rent there. They're like a little resort. People ride around on golf carts all day to meet up and greet and talk. And it's not just for the poverty and lower income housing areas. It depends on what you want for your lifestyle. There's a
Mhm.
lot of people, there is a movement, I won't say a lot of people, for folks that are tired of having the bigger houses, the bigger utilities that come with those, and they're downsizing in retirement to have more money to have a less stressful life. There's nothing wrong with that concept there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just for the income basis of, lower income people here anymore. So absolutely.
Okay. Roxana asks, is it harder to get homeowners insurance for older mobile homes? Do you require that for owner financing to protect your investment in case of fire damage, or if you had to take a property back?
So there's this fantastic area called Birmingham Insurance Group that they will finance, or not finance, but insure mobile homes. Foremost is a big insurance company that will do older homes as well. But the other statement I'll say, Roxana, is what's your upfront investment? If you're only in 10,000 or less, and they give you 7,000 down, okay. If you can't get the finance or can't get the insurance on it, do you really care? You've gotten the majority of your stuff out of there. But in most cases, you can. It's they may fight you a little bit on replacement value for a new versus a used, but otherwise, I've been successful, knock on wood, on getting insurance on all of the ones that I had. When I was in California, I lived in a 1968 mobile home that had been completely remodeled with granite countertops. I had no issues at all with insurance. So.
Yeah, Roxanne, and if you want to know even more about that, Corey and Jason, of course, are in there in Sub2 Max with us. So ask them that question. I'm sure they can answer all that stuff for you. You can ask it in the forum as well. They're in here also posting. If y'all have any other questions, let's get those in here. We're going to be wrapping up here in just a couple of minutes. Dana says there are a ton of mobile homes and parks hidden in the trees here in Alpharetta, Georgia. For sure.
Let's talk through that, because those are your ones that you won't, is the ones hidden in the trees. I mean, the reality is those are what I call the hidden gems, because if they've been forgotten about, or somebody's moved away, or somebody inherited it and such, buy it for cheap and sell it on owner financing for triple. I mean, even triple of cheap is still profit.
So. Absolutely. Okay, guys, last chance to get your questions in here. Listen, Pam, Roxana in here, Jason and Corey with Big Insurance, they're all in Sub2 Max with us. So you guys want to learn all about Subject 2, talk to people about creative finance. Pam does a class every month in Sub2 Max. Come check us out, sub2dealscoach.com or sub2max.com, and learn all about what we do. And don't forget to sign up or go over and become a member of Pam's Facebook group at wobblyboxeslove.com. She keeps it. Every time I see her, I say, where's your website? Where's your website? She's going to get that thing going. But in the meantime, you can connect with her, learn all about mobile homes, modular homes, how to create notes, and just make a sick amount of money with these things. So, yeah. And remember, if you go over and join her group and ask for it, she's going to give you her presentation from tonight. So any final thoughts there, Pam, before we get out of here, if we don't get any more questions?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to do the presentation. I love mobile homes in any way, shape, or size. And if you're not quite at the point of you're willing to do it yourself, let's partner. Let's figure it out. And, we always have lending opportunities. So it looks like Tristan had a conversation in there, William, about what happens if you, I see it in the chat somehow or another. I don't know where I'm saying about.
How do you find a buyer for age-restricted mobile homes in a park?
The same way you find a buyer that's any limitation. You identify that up front. You state the age requirement up front, and then it's up to you to manage that requirement, right? Just be honest with them and say it up front, 55 and older only. And then I will say this as just a hint. Some of the 55 and older will have an allowance for a certain number of tenants to be under that. They don't advertise that. You don't hear about that, but you can ask if they have that percentage or if they are willing to take one on. You might be the exception, may not be, but it's worth the ask.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Okay, guys, that's it. We're going to wrap it up. Thanks, Pam. We really appreciate you coming on here. Always a ton of information. People just love your presentations. Pam always has a great turnout. We appreciate your time.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right.
Have a good evening. Thanks, guys.
Okay, guys, join
Bye.
us. Normally we're on Thursday morning for Go Talk, so you guys join us. We'll see you this Thursday. Have a good
Awesome.
night.
Thanks, William. Bye.